Do you know that feeling when you come home from work, from school, university, and you just can't bring yourself to do anything because you're absolutely tired? But instead of resting, you sink into the sofa, retreat to your room, phone in your hand, and you tell yourself, we'll just scroll for a few minutes. I've told myself the very exact same lie so many times before. But minutes turn into hours. TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, Reddit, emails, YouTube, LinkedIn. You just keep scrolling and slowly you start to just rot there. Time disappears. You can't even recall what you've seen. You only know that you feel more drained than when you started. But it's a strange kind of exhaustion. It's not in your body but in your mind. And what did you even take in? You remember fragments, your friend's vacation photo, a clip of a war zone, a political rant, a meme, a reel, a random sound. Pieces that just don't connect. A collage of noise and emotion. It's not a story. It's not rest. It's more like staring at a chaotic postmodern painting full of colors and movement, but absolutely no meaning if you're like me. Does this sound familiar to you? Your thoughts feel slow, your mind feels foggy, you're tired, but of what exactly you can't even tell. That, my friends, is brain rot. It's the silent exhaustion of the information age. I've been researching the impact of technology on our mental health for almost 10 years, but this video is different. It's not a sciencey different, it's a personal video because I felt it too. I see it in my family, I see it in my husband, I see it amongst my friends. Annoyingly, I also see it in my students when I teach them. There were days when I look up from my phone and realize that an hour was gone and I couldn't even say what I've watched. Even weekends I've wasted just being on the sofa on my phone. So my goal here isn't to shame you for scrolling, it's to help you while I've helped myself understand what's happening inside our mind, our brain, our body, and what to actually do about it. So stay with me for the next minutes, and by the end you'll know exactly how to spot brain rot, how it reshapes attention, and how to rebuild mental clarity step by step. But let's start with a bit of history. What is brain rot? What is this phenomena that, although not a medical condition, is so widely spread? It's defined as the supposed deterioration of a person's mental or intellectual state, especially viewed as the result of overconsumption of material considered to be trivial or unchallenging, mostly online, right? So something characterized as likely to lead to such deterioration. But the first recorded use of brain rot was found in 1854 in Henry David Thoreau's book, Walden, which reports his experiences of living a very simple lifestyle in the natural world. As part of his conclusions, Thoreau criticizes society's tendency to devalue complex ideas, or those that can be interpreted in multiple ways in favor of very simplistic ones, and sees these as indicative of a general decline in mental and intellectual effort. While England endeavors to cure the potato rot, will not any endeavor to cure the brain rot, which prevails so much more widely and fatally. Even Pope Francis, in January of 2025, said this in the speech delivered during the meeting in the Paul VI Hall with journalists and communicators participating in the Jubilee of the World of Communication. Freedom is the courage to choose. Let us take the opportunity of the Jubilee to renew, to rediscover this courage. The courage to free the heart from what corrupts it. Let's place respect for the highest and noblest part of our humanity at the center of our hearts, and avoid filling them with what rots and causes them to rot. The choices each of us makes matter. For example, in expelling the brain rot caused by the addiction to constant scrolling on social media, which the Oxford Dictionary has named the word of the year. Don Grant, PhD, describes it as the state of mindlessly scrolling, being an absent presence, that is a zombie state. You're missing opportunities for connection, experiences, and real-life engagement because you're just rotting in front of your phone. But we're not the only ones to experience this. Newport Institute claims that 89% of college students experience moderate or severe anxiety and fear when they don't have their phones with them. The average person scrolls through 300 feet of content, the height of the Statue of Liberty. So, what does brain rot feel like? You feel overstimulated but underfulfilled. You forget what you just consumed. You can't sit still or read long text or do anything and focus for a longer period of time at school, university, work. You crave the next clip more than craving rest. You feel mentally foggy, anxious, or empty. You feel gratifications when scrolling, and you have spikes of self-doubt, comparison with what we see online, followed by intense feelings of flow when watching content that we like. But this is not continuous. What is the mechanism behind all this? How to recognize it in yourself or your child? First, we're thinking about social media continuously, and we have an inability to control the frequency and length of time that we spend online. 2, we use social media to escape problems. We use technology to escape from, relieve, or self-medicate negative moods such as grief, anxiety, hopelessness. 3, we use social media more and more and have an increased tolerance in spending time online. 4, we feel restless or troubled when unable to use social media. We experience irritability, sadness, anxiety, even tantrums when deprived of devices or internet access. 5, social media use negatively impacting other areas of life like work or studies. 6, when we try to cut down, we do not have success with it. We are lying to ourselves or family about how much time we actually spend online, and we start to ignore hygiene, nutrition, and other self-care behaviors. We might even lose a job or do extremely poorly in school due to device dependence. But what are the brain rot behaviors? There are 4 of them, right? Doom scrolling is one of them, which involves searching for distressing information and negative news. Doom scrollers, they feel an overwhelming desire to be up to date on the latest information, even when it's disturbing. Second, video gaming. While it's possible to game without getting addicted, some gamers play compulsively and develop gaming disorder. They become so entranced by video games, alternate worlds, fanciful characters, and complicated plots that they can have much difficulty functioning in other areas of life. 3, zombie scrolling. This brain rot behavior refers to mindless habitual scrolling with no destination in mind or benefit derived. When zombie scrolling, you vacantly stare at your smartphone as you flit from one feed to another. And 4, we have a social media addiction characterized by a persistent urge to check social media and a feeling of restlessness when you try to break this habit. Users simply can't stop checking platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. We see constant notifications, bright colors, stimulating sounds can literally mesmerize us, causing us to stop thinking clearly. But what does brain rot do to us? Well, when we talk about brain rot, we usually think of attention, of focus, memory, concentration. But what if it's not just our attention that's at stake? What if it's our identity? Imagine this: billions of brains quietly rewired by design. It's a sobering thought, and one worth understanding, not fearing. Because brain rot doesn't just drain our mental energy, but it rewires the way we see ourselves. Over the past decade, the number of social interactions happening online has absolutely exploded. We've just built parallel universes, one made of profiles, pictures, pixels. For many, especially young adults, this digital world has become the primary arena of social life. And inside that world, self-concept, the answer to who I am, is shaped less by reflecting and reflection and more by the reaction of others. You open your phone and there it is. A number next to your name, friends, followers, likes, views. Everything that once lived in the private corners of self-esteem is now public. It's measurable, it's comparable. And the comparisons absolutely never end. You scroll through feeds filled with highlight reels, people's vacations, promotions, new houses, perfect skin, perfect relationships, But these images are not reality, they're just productions. Polished, filtered, carefully curated. Still, your brain doesn't know that. It takes them in as truth. And as Youssef and colleagues from 2025 in Demystifying the New Dilemma of Brain Rot in the Digital Era, a review point out the constant bombardment of such overstimulating content that leads to emotional desensitization, cognitive overload, and a negative self-concept. That means your brain becomes cluttered, so overloaded with stimulation that it can no longer tell truth from illusion or genuine connection from digital performance. These results are profound. When your self-worth becomes tied to visibility, you stop being the author of your own identity. Instead, you become the audience. You're also constantly watching yourself through the imagined eyes of others. This distortion often spirals into doom scrolling, zombie scrolling, and full-blown social media addiction, behaviors that are now consistently linked to anxiety, depression, and psychological distress. But brain rot doesn't stop at emotion. It reaches deeper into the very cognitive machinery that defines human intelligence. In 2023, Mendez and colleagues demonstrated that internet addiction disrupts cognitive control, the system that helps you focus, remember, and organize information. Constant interruptions, notifications, swipes, micro videos hijack that control. You process information now in fragments and never long enough for it to move from short-term memory into long-term understanding. In a similar study, Jiang and colleagues in 2024, they found that excessive internet use correlates with deficits in working memory, that mental space that we use for learning, reasoning, and decision-making. When that workspace is constantly cluttered, thinking deeply becomes almost impossible. And then there's attention, our most precious cognitive resource. With every single scroll, every tap, every swipe, we train our brain to crave rapid novelty. This environment of fast, fragmented input leads to only superficial engagement with ideas. It's what researchers call doom scrolling, the relentless consumption of information, often distressing, without reflection or purpose. According to Arts and colleagues in 2024, these constant micro-interruptions create cognitive overload, eroding the brain's ability to sustain focus and increase vulnerability to distraction. Over time, your attention span shrinks. You may still consume information, even more than before, but you rarely retain it. And that's not all. Both memory and problem solving suffers. Young adults caught in cycles of brain rot are showing a lower cognitive flexibility, that ability to adapt, to switch perspectives, and solve new problems creatively. As Emadi Chashmi and colleagues explain, impulsivity and poor decision-making are not just side effects. They become habits of thought. The brain learns to prefer instant gratification, the quick hit of a new clip, the reward of I've caught myself doing it too. Mindlessly tapping next, chasing that tiny spark of novelty. We're not weak, we're humans. These systems are designed to win. Notifications, they overslow deliberate analytical thinking. And the result? We are trading insight for immediacy, reflection for reaction, depth for dopamine. And these effects don't occur in isolation. They grow within a cultural context that often normalizes, even celebrates digital dependency. O'Reilly and Mohan emphasize that parental modeling and societal norms play a major role. Many adults now mirror the same compulsive behaviors they worry about in their children. Meanwhile, internet literacy, knowing how to navigate online spaces, doesn't necessarily protect against addiction. Without deliberate education in healthy digital habits, even the most tech-savvy individuals are at risk of cognitive decline. So when we speak of brain rot, we're not just talking about fatigue. We're talking about an identity crisis. A generation growing up online, constantly measuring their worth, constantly overstimulated and increasingly detached from the quiet inner space where true self-understanding is born. The tragedy of brain rot isn't what it steals our time. It's that it reshapes who we are, one scroll at a time. But here's the good news. Identity can be reclaimed. We can build our focus, and we can rediscover our self-worth, but not in the glow of the screen, but in the stillness of our own mind. So this isn't about guilt. It is about awareness. It is about control. So stay with me for a few more minutes and you'll walk away knowing exactly how to spot brain rot before it takes hold of you or someone that you care about. So what to do about it? First, we can't fix what we can't measure. So before we talk about how to fight brain rot, let's talk about how to reclaim your mind one step at a time. The MIND framework helps you rebuild focus and digital balance through 4 simple evidence-based steps. Measure, identify and track, neutralize, develop new habits. So let's walk through them together. Step 1, measure. As I said, we can't solve what we cannot measure. So let's measure this together. I will read 6 statements from the Bergen Social Media Addiction Scale, BSMAS. For each, answer 1, very rarely, 2, rarely, 3, sometimes, 4, often, or 5, very often. So from 1 to 5, from very rarely to very often. 1, you spend a lot of time thinking about social media or planning how to use it. 2, you feel an urge to use social media more and more. 3, you use social media in order to forget about personal problems. Oh, so guilty. 4, you have tried to cut down on the use of social media without success. 5, you become restless or troubled if you are prohibited from using social media. 6, you use social media so much that it has had a negative impact on your job or your studies. All my students, you can answer 5 on that. Step 2, identify and track. Next, let's look at the screen time. So for the next week, use a tracker. Your phone has a built-in screen time app or any external tool. And write down how much time you actually spend online and what you spend it on. Most people are shocked when they see the total. That shock can be a wake-up call that you need because, and this comes from research by Deo, Wallace, and Kidwell from 2023, screen time significantly predicts higher anxiety, depression, and stress. But there's a good news. They found that spending time outdoors, what they call green time, predicted lower stress and depression. In other words, time in nature can protect your mental health. Even short daily walks or time in sunlight can buffer your brain from digital overload. So, if your mind feels foggy, sometimes the best reset button isn't an app, it's a tree. Step 3, neutralize. In other words, adding friction. We've measured our digital habits, now it's time to act. So there are 2 main strategies here. 1, you add friction, and 2, you replace. So when we add friction, we need to add small speed bumps between ourselves and our phones. Why? Because the less automatic the habit, the more mindful we become. And here's how. First, you can turn off non-essential notifications, move distracting apps off your home screen, log out of apps that pull you in, set specific screen-free hours, like the first hour after waking or the last hour before bed, or why not, both of them. Consider a grayscale screen. It makes scrolling extremely boring because you can't see the colors of the pictures. And research backs this up. Jiang and colleagues from 2024 emphasize that boundaries, like limiting daily use or deleting toxic apps, can help restore cognitive balance and reduce overload. So you're not giving up technology, you're just taking back control. Fun fact, I'm doing a lot of these things myself, and both me and my husband tried the black grayscale screen. Strategy 2, now we need to replace. Brain rot thrives in empty spaces. If you just delete the apps without replacing them, that void will call you back. So fill it in intentionally. Read, write, learn a new skill, play music, volunteer, go outside. Be with your friends. Spend time in nature. Spend time with your dog. Engage in non-digital activities is one of the most effective ways to counterbalance mental fatigue. Emadi Chasmi and colleagues from 2024 say that these hobbies also improve cognitive flexibility and problem-solving skills. So every time you pick up a guitar, take a walk, have a real conversation, you're not only resting, but you're rewiring your brain for resilience. Curate and connect. Another key step. Curate your feed. Unfollow accounts that trigger anger, envy, or comparison. And replace them with content that educates, inspires, or calms you. Taskin and colleagues from 2024 found that creating a positive digital environment can lower anxiety and depression. That's good news. So even small changes in what you consume can reshape how you feel. And don't underestimate community. O'Reilly and Mohan in 2024 emphasized that both online and offline social support protect us from isolation. When you connect with real people through volunteering, sports, church, shared hobbies, you're rebuilding that emotional muscles that digital life tends to erode. And now we're back to step number 4 in our mind framework. Rebalance your mind. Youssef and colleagues from 2025 describe brain rot as a cycle of emotional desensitization and cognitive overload, but they also remind us that these effects are reversible. Your brain is plastic, it learns constantly, it can heal, so when you reduce overstimulation and bring balance back, focus, creativity, and even your mood, they begin to stabilize again. So, your challenge. You've already taken the first step just by watching this. That curiosity that you feel right now, that's the healthy part of your brain fighting back. So, here's what I suggest as a homework for this week. Can you go one morning, just one, without checking your phone before breakfast? Try it and see who's really in control. And then, 1. Take the test and calculate your total score, the BSMAS test. Track your daily screen time for 7 days. Choose one friction, like no phone mornings, and one replacement activity, like a daily walk or reading. And then observe how you feel. You might be surprised by how fast the fog begins to lift and how much space you suddenly have for thought, for presence, for life. And remember, your mind wasn't designed to scroll endlessly. It was designed to see, to create, to connect. So, let's start treating it that way. I'm Raluca Alexandra Stana. I'm your guide to thriving in a hyper-digitalized world. And if you like my video, please share it with someone that needs to hear this message. And subscribe. Also, share in the comments what strategies have you applied to make your digital life healthier. See you next time. Bye!